commercial van driver who was shot by the military at the Kanilai checkpoint is responding to treatment as Gambia Armed Forces launch investigation. Donald Trump unveiled proposal to overhaul the U.S.'s immigration program, which would shift the system towards seeking skilled labor and potential job creators. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has appealed for $184 million to assist displaced Cameroonians as the crisis continues. These are the headlines. More coming on your way on the world today on iAfrica TV. Hello viewers, you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am your presenter Fatmata Jajo. We now kick off with our first story. The commercial van driver who was shot by the military at the Kanilai checkpoint is positively recovering and responding to treatment. Gambia Armed Forces confirmed the victim, Ismaila Tamba, a former member of the Armed Forces, was rushed to the Buyam General Hospital, later to Edward Francis Teaching Hospital in Banjo yesterday, where he undergone successful operation and the bullet was removed from his body. Circumstance surrounding the shooting is not clear, but sources say the incident occurred following a brief argument he had with the soldier on duty. Kanilai is home of the former president Yahya Jammeh, who ruled Gambia with iron fist for 22 years. The Army Public Relations Officer Major Lamin K. Sanyang said investigations are underway and all the soldiers on duty on the scene of the incident are helping the military in their investigations. President Donald Trump unveiled his broad proposal to overhaul the U.S. immigration program, which would, if enacted, divergently shift the system towards seeking skilled labor and potential job creators. The plan, which is unlikely to gain traction in a divided Congress, had long been in a development within his administration, being spearheaded by the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Trump's far-right senior advisor Stephen Miller also helped lead the effort. Here is an insert. Let's take a look.
A topic of less discussion in national media, but of vital importance to our country, is our legal immigration system itself. Our plan includes a sweeping modernization of our dysfunctional legal immigration process. It is totally dysfunctional. The system will finally be fair, transparent, and promote equality and opportunity for all. Every year, we admit 1.1 million immigrants as permanent legal residents. These green card holders get lifetime authorization to live and work here and a 5-year path to American citizenship. This is the most prized citizenship anywhere in the world by far. Currently, 66% of legal immigrants come here on the basis of random chance. They're admitted solely because they have a relative in the United States, and it doesn't really matter who that relative is. Another 21% of immigrants are issued either by random lottery or because they're fortunate enough to be selected for humanitarian relief. Random selection is contrary to American values and blocks out many qualified potential immigrants from around the world who have much to contribute. While countless, and you wouldn't believe how many countries like Canada create a clear path for top talent, America does not. Under the senseless rules of the current system, we're not able to give preference to a doctor, a researcher, a student who graduated #1 in his class from the finest colleges in the world. Anybody, we're not able to take care of it. We're not able to make those incredible breakthroughs. If somebody graduates top of their class from the best college, sorry, go back to your country. We want to keep them here. Companies are moving offices to other countries because our immigration rules prevent them from retaining highly skilled, and even, if I might, totally brilliant people. We discriminate against genius. We discriminate against brilliance. We won't anymore once we get this passed, and we hope to get it passed as soon as possible.
President Adama Barrow has challenged his cabinet to ensure that they succeed when they are called on to account to the Gambian people in 2021, while encouraging them to unite, coordinate, and communicate in making results visible. He made this assertion over the weekend while presiding over a special cabinet meeting on the newly established Department of Strategic Policy Delivery. He told ministers that with capacity, commitment, and honesty, the team should ensure that decisions taken are executed, realize the promise made to Gambians. Secretary General and Head of Civil Service Honorable Ibrahim O. Kamara said the new expansion of the Office of the President is to translate the political ambitions into action by rebalancing policy and implementation. Introducing the presentation, Special Advisor to the President on Governance and Policy for Strategic Political Oversight, Honorable Ahmed Fati explained the need for a broader range of technical tools to better understand the quality of progress being made and the desire to improve overall management. Director General Director General of the department, Mr. Alaji Nyangadu, led the presentation detailing the core functions of the department in bringing visibility on the priority issues, follow-up on the cabinet conclusions and policy advice on the economy through coherent coordination with the sectors to ensure evidence-based decision-making on the implementation of the National Development Plan. Russian President Vladimir Putin has no plans to greet his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky on his inauguration. Volodymyr Zelensky was sworn in as Ukraine's sixth president on Monday morning, with the one-time showman dramatically vowing to dissolve parliament and provoke snap parliamentary elections. Mr. Zelensky, a rookie politician, has long indicated he intended to disband the Supreme Rada, which was elected in 2014 and is largely hostile to him. But it was not immediately clear whether he had the legal authority to do so, and judicial judgments are likely to follow. Russian President Vladimir Putin has no plans to greet his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky on his inauguration. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov on Monday said no contact between the two leaders was on the agenda. He said that Putin would congratulate his newly elected counterpart if Zelensky makes progress in settling the conflict in southeast of Ukraine and mending relations with Russia. President Putin will congratulate President Zelensky on the first successes in the settlement of the internal conflict in the southeast of Ukraine, as well as on the first successes in the normalization of Russian-Ukrainian relations, he said. Peskov, however, did not specify these first successes. He only said that they were too obvious. He added that the conflict on Donbass must be resolved on the basis of Minsk agreement. Both countries have been at loggerheads since 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea after a controversial referendum. Turkey as well as the UN General Assembly viewed the annexation as illegal. Ukraine has also blamed Kremlin for separatist violence in eastern Ukraine near the border with Russia. President Putin insists on not congratulating his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky unless he mends Russian-Ukrainian relations. Egypt says security forces killed 12 members of a militant group with suspected links to the now outlawed Muslim Brotherhood in shootouts in Cairo, just as after a roadside bomb struck a tourist bus near the Giza pyramids, wounding at least 17. The Interior Ministry says 7 of the militants were killed in a firefight when police raided their hideout in the 6th of October suburb. More on this report. Security forces killed 12 gunmen in a shootout near Cairo, according to Egypt's Interior Ministry on Monday. In a statement, the ministry said 7 people were killed in an exchange of fire with security forces during a raid on a flat west of Cairo. 5 other gunmen were killed in another raid in Al-Shuruq city, east of Cairo, the ministry said. The statement said the individuals were members of Hassim Group, which the Egyptian authorities linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt and the US have both designated Hassim as a terrorist group. The Muslim Brotherhood, for its part, has consistently denied having an armed wing and has distanced itself from Hassim, which in recent years has claimed responsibility for several attacks on officials and security personnel. Egypt has been roiled by turmoil since the army ousted Mohamed Morsi, the country's first freely elected president and a Muslim Brotherhood leader, in a 2013 military coup. Members of Hassim, a designated terrorist group by US and Egypt, were killed by Egypt's security forces during shootouts in Cairo. Coming up after the break, ending his trip to the Pacific, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Vanuatu, where he praised the government's efforts to combat climate change. That you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. We now take a look at the remaining stories. Ending his trip to the Pacific, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Vanuatu, where he praised the government's efforts to combat climate change. In a statement, the UN chief said climate change is now an existential threat to the Pacific countries. He called on all decision makers around the world to show enlightened self-interest, because it is not only the Pacific that is at stake, it is the whole planet.
The Pacific is in the front line of the devastating impacts of climate change, but the Pacific has not contributed to climate change. On the contrary, even if the islands are so small that they would never have a meaningful impact, the truth is that we see a lot of investment in the Pacific in renewable energies and in other forms of mitigation that should be followed and copied by some of the most developed countries in the world. Vanuatu is a country that is extremely prone to natural disasters, volcanoes, to earthquakes, to the consequences of climate change. But Vanuatu has adopted a very effective policy on resilience and adaptation that I believe is also an example to be followed, and as an oceans policy that is absolutely exemplary.
Escalating conflict in Cameroon's northwest and southwest region has displaced hundreds of thousands of people within and outside the country. Many who have crossed into neighboring Nigeria fled with very little belongings and are struggling to cope with life in exile. Rachel Aga, Cameroonian refugee, said they shot her husband down and left her with 4 kids. Rachel Aga fled Cameroon and now lives in Agadom refugee settlement, which hosts over 7,000 refugees, nearly double its capacity of 4,000. There's an insert. Let's take a look.
I'm a widow. They shot my husband down and left me with 4 kids. We don't have any support. So how should I going to live? Or how else should I going to live? It's not easy to leave your country to go and suffering to different country. Every day in the night, I'm thinking about of the crisis of Cameroon, about my late husband. And this is the message that I'm giving you people with my tears. People should wait with the message and deliver you and people that we are suffering. The suffering is too much. We don't want to see this again.
For his part, Josiah Flamo, head of the sub-office in Ogoja, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, said they have initiations in all the major sectors that they prioritize. The issue of registration, food, water, shelter, health, education, because they don't have enough funding to be able to adequately provide and support their needs. UNHCR has appealed for $184 million to assist displaced Cameroonians. As the crisis continues, more will flee and the suffering will continue. Let's take a look.
We have limitations in all of the major sectors that we have prioritized. The issue of registrations, the issues of food, the issues of water, the issue of shelters, the issue of health, the issue of education, because we do not have enough funding to be able to adequately provide and support their needs.
Rising conflict in Cameroon's northwest and southwest regions have caused displacement of hundreds of people. Qatar has not received an invitation to two summits, a foreign ministry official said in apparent reference to emergency meetings of Gulf and Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia earmarked for the months after attacks in Saudi oil assets. On Sunday, Saudi King Salman proposed holding the two summits in Mecca on May 30th to discuss the implications of last week's drone attacks on oil installations in the kingdom and attacks on 4 vessels, including 2 Saudi oil tankers off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. Qatar has not received an official invitation to 2 emergency summits called by Saudi Arabia, a Qatari state minister said on Monday. Saudi King Salman called for holding Gulf and Arab summits in Mecca on May 30th to discuss implications of recent attacks on 2 oil installations in Saudi Arabia and 4 ships off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. Qatar, which is still isolated by its Gulf neighbors, has not received an invitation to the 2 summits, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Sultan Al-Muraikhi said in a statement. Last week, Saudi Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih said armed drones carried out attacks on 2 oil pumping stations on the East-West pipeline, which carries Saudi's oil from the eastern province to the port on the west coast. The attack came days after 4 ships were hit by a sabotage attack near the UAE waters, including 2 Saudi oil tankers. These summits will be held amid heightened tensions between the US and Iran, with Washington deploying a carrier strike group and bomber task force to the Middle East, citing an imminent threat from Iran. In mid-2017, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt all abruptly severed ties with Doha, accusing it of supporting terrorist groups. Qatar, for its part, has vociferously denied the allegation, describing the Saudi-led embargo against it as a violation of international law. On Sunday, Saudi Foreign Minister Abdel Al-Jubair accused Doha of supporting terrorism and insulting the umbrella Gulf Cooperation Council, drawing fire from the Qatari Foreign Ministry. Jubair's remarks were regrettable irony, where he began by the need for reunification of visions, the Arab and Gulf ranks, and then attacked Qatar, wondering how the 2 things are right, Ministry spokesperson Lola Al-Qatar said in a statement cited by the official QNA news agency. She said the Saudi diplomat forgot or pretended to forget that the policies practiced by the 4 countries that imposed a blockade on Qatar for more than 2 years are policies that split the Gulf, creating a rift in joint Arab and Gulf action and exerting pressure not only on Qatar but on a number of Arab countries. Qatar faces isolation from Gulf and Arab leaders over accusations of supporting terrorist groups. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today News Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, kindly log on to our website, iafrica.tv. I am Fatmata Jaju. Bye for now.